rising interest rates, the cause and effect on the Hoosier housing market, what you should know about buying, selling, or maintaining Home Sweet Home in Indiana. Plus, an Indianapolis giant with a long history in vehicle innovation and technology is expanding its footprint. Go inside Allison Transmission's new Innovation Center.
10-10-7.
And the business of baby. From toddlers to tweens, we introduce you to an Indiana entrepreneur bringing budget-friendly kids' clothes to the masses. It's all coming up on this edition of Inside Indiana Business.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick. The Hoosier housing market is about to enter its busiest time of the year with continued tight inventory and now rising mortgage rates. Right now, there's less than a 4-week supply of homes on the market in Indiana. Compare that to 2008, when at one time in that year, there was a 37-month supply. Now, the market has also created something that should be a red flag for homeowners. And here with details on that and a market outlook, Compass of Indiana founding partner and broker Greg Cooper. Greg, is always welcome.
Great to be here in studio with you.
Well, I know, finally.
Awesome, after 2 years.
Face to face. I want to talk about the market, but this red flag we're talking about, and essentially it's rising construction costs, rising home values. Homeowners are finding themselves underinsured. Right?
So if you're a homeowner or you own a structure of any kind in the state of Indiana, you need to hear this. At your earliest convenience, you need to make a call to your insurance agent to make sure that you are insured for full replacement costs, because those costs have skyrocketed and many people are not covered.
Yeah, and you have some examples. I know you've had a couple of people, unfortunately, who've lost their homes because of fire. Found out the cost to replace, there's a big gap.
So if you in these instances, we had one case where there was about a $75,000 gap between what they were covered for in construction costs and what the new build cost and their insurance was going to be. They're on the hook for that. They're going to have to remortgage that money back into the price of the house to rebuild.
I've already put a call into my my guy, so thanks for the
Big
tip
deal,
on that.
sure.
Very important. Okay, let's talk about the market. We're seeing rising mortgage rates. What the Fed is going to continue to ratchet up rates. Is that easing the inventory situation?
Not one bit, because we have such an overwhelming demand. So many people are still trying to get in homes. You know, we've had a good 12, 15-year run. Jobs are in pretty good shape for most people. People have some disposable income. But the reality is the inventory is so tight right now that, and as rates go up, it's kind of a flock to the inventory because now they want to beat the rates getting higher. Yeah. So it's driven even more people into the market.
Yeah, and you told me last week at one of your homes, how many people did you?
So we had 106 broker confirmed showings and over 75 just walk-ups in 28 hours that the home was on the market. Wow. And it sold for 31% above list the first day.
Wow. So rising rates, the other piece is refinances, right. The refi market, which was red hot for a long time. That's changing.
For the most part, unless you've got a company that has a really interesting specialty product, the refinancing is gone. But, you know, other old school products are starting to reemerge, like the 723 mortgage and some things of that nature. 525s, a few of those are starting to reemerge.
Yeah, talk about, so this is a seller's market here in central Indiana. I assume it's a similar picture around the state of Indiana.
I don't care if you're in Evansville or Valparaiso or Fort Wayne or Richmond. It's the same in everywhere. The highest demand homes are going to draw the highest interest.
What are you seeing, though, Greg, too, in this environment where the inventory is so tight, there's so much demand in terms of appraisals and inspections and things like that that may be going by the wayside?
So, first of all, a lot of people are foregoing inspections. We are not a fan of that for buyers or sellers, because we're seeing instances where buyers, 6 months after they buy a home that they weren't allowed to have an inspection on, are finding things that they feel the seller may have known about. There's a liability release to a degree for a seller to letting a buyer have an as-is inspection.
Yeah. Institutional buyers, are they coming in the market? What's that all about?
It's brutal. So because housing is so affordable in Indiana, because inflation has driven rents up so high, we are an incredibly attractive place for big institutional buyers to come in, pay cash, and lease homes out. And if you're you're a buyer, and we have an incredible level of empathy for anybody trying to buy a home right now,
right.
It's tough. But you're competing against those people, and you need to understand that.
The hottest price point is at the entry level?
The entry level, which in many cases is $300, $250. It depends.
Wow.
Maybe if you've got a condo that's a little more entry level, you might find less. But in a lot of places, the entry level pricing is really competitive.
Okay, we're entering a busy time of year in spring here, obviously. But as you look at the remainder of 2022, Greg, what are you seeing? Rising mortgage rates for sure. What are you looking at in terms of the rest of the year?
So there's so many people out there right now. It kind of remains to be seen who's going to get a home bought and who isn't. Generally speaking, we will see a slowdown as we get through the latter part of the year. There's so many factors that can affect that. I don't think home mortgage rates are going to stop people from trying to buy homes because we have so many buyers and a lot less sellers. But I think the dynamic will change as we get into the second half of 2022.
Greg Cooper is the founding partner and broker at Compass of Indiana. Greg, great information, especially on that home insurance deal.
Super important, Gary.
Yeah,
thanks for having me in.
We'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Well, Greg Ballard, he knows a thing or two about navigating through choppy economic waters. The 48th mayor of Indianapolis is my guest on the next Business and Beyond podcast. Ballard was elected Indianapolis mayor in 2007, just as the country was slipping into the Great Recession. But Ballard said his toughest challenge came in 2015 when Indiana found itself under fire due to the passage of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, RFRA, which was later amended.
I think our tech community would have dissolved quite quickly if that thing had stayed in place. As you found out a couple years later, Salesforce increased by 800. But I would tell you, if RFRA stood as it was, I think Salesforce would have left.
Much more with Greg Ballard, some interesting perspective, including what he's up to now, living in South Carolina. To check out the Business and Beyond podcast, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Coming up next, continuing the legacy of innovation at Allison Transmission. We'll check out the company's new state-of-the-art engineering center when we come back. It's time to go inside innovation. Allison Transmission on the west side of Indianapolis is expanding its footprint with the opening of a new state-of-the-art innovation center. Engineers at the new center are focused on advancing technology in the commercial vehicle propulsion sector, bringing new products to market faster and more efficiently. And I'm pleased to welcome to the show Allison Transmission's Executive Director of Global Marketing, Brandon Harbin. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gary. Really appreciate the opportunity to walk through Allison's heritage with you.
Yeah, well, we're getting a nice look there at what is a brand new facility that you have just christened. It is this innovation center, part of what is an overall $335 million investment in a number of facilities, so a big commitment. Brandon, talk about the innovation center, 100,000 square feet. It is substantial in size. What's the focus going to be out there?
No, thank you so much. We're absolutely thrilled with this facility and the partnership with the state of Indiana, city of Indianapolis, and the town of Speedway to help us continue to expand our footprint and our heritage here in the town of Speedway. Overall, Gary, it's simple. The idea is collaboration, right? Both internal and external collaboration. Internal with our associates. This facility enabled us to get all of our 300 or so product engineering associates here in one campus. And then also from an industry collaboration standpoint, enables us to bring state-of-the-art capabilities and simulation, 3D modeling, and validation with those industry partners right here in one location.
Yeah, so again, you're going to be, this is for employees, for partners, customers, kind of a one-stop shop where they can really utilize this facility.
Right. Absolutely, and the whole concept is, right, start with an idea. We can model that with physical and virtual simulation. Once we get the concept ready, we can go into modeling with 3D printing capability and then actually produce it right here at our manufacturing footprint within Indianapolis and test it at our test track and demonstration track that is right behind us and leverage the vehicle electrification and environmental test center that's also here on this main campus to do the validation of those products. So it's just a great investment overall in next generation propulsion solutions, Gary.
Yeah, well, this facility, the other facilities you talk about support all of your product lines, but you mentioned the electrification of the vehicle, which is happening across the industry, certainly. The electric piece of it is a real focus.
Absolutely. I mean, as we move to the next generation, right, it gets at the core of what Allison does, innovation. And this facility and these investments were really timed in a way that helps us to maintain a leadership position on innovation and with our propulsion solutions as the industry transitions from internal combustion and starts to evaluate what full electric really means to our industry and to commercial vehicles.
You know, Allison has such a long and rich history, heritage, tradition here in Indianapolis, but the changing face of industry in your industry, you know, we were talking off camera, it used to be that Allison would introduce maybe a new product once every 10 years or so. Much different picture nowadays.
It is, and that's exactly why we have these facilities, right, is the speed at which innovation is required and the speed at which we need to bring products to market. An innovation center, along with our industry partners, as well as our new testing and validation capabilities of the vehicle electrification and environmental test center, allow us to bring an unprecedented level of new products to market and to do that at a much faster rate, rather than once every decade bringing a new product to market. You know, right now we have over 8 products that we're looking at maturing to go to start of production, right, across conventional products with diesel engines as well as our electric axle product family.
Yeah, wow. Hey, got to ask you too, this facility, every company across every industry is in the search for talent. It's a war on talent, trying to get the best and the brightest. I've got to assume that this facility is going to be a nice attractor to get some high-level engineering and other talent there at the Allison facility on the west side.
Well, Allison, just like our other partners, right, we're committed to the Indianapolis community, the state of Indiana, and we want to ensure that we remain, right, a source of top talent nationwide, and we're really confident in this facility will enable us to do that and to really demonstrate to the next level and generation of leaders, right, what Allison Transmission is all about, our heritage, our commitment to innovation, state-of-the-art facilities, and we're committed with the industry partners to do that. Cummins, our neighbor to the south, as well as with the local universities where we've established partnerships, right, to maintain that level of talent here in Indiana, Gerry.
Brandon Harbin is Executive Director of Global Marketing at Allison Transmission. Brandon, thanks very much for the tour. Looks like an amazing facility, and again, adding to the assets here in central Indiana and throughout the state. Really appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, a booming business right now in Indiana, boutiques for kids. Mary Rachel Redmond with the lowdown on what's driving sales in this week's Around Indiana. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Well, just because they're smaller doesn't mean their clothing is any cheaper. In fact, it's usually just the opposite. Our Mary Rachel Redmond joins us now in studio with more on Hoosier-based companies capitalizing on the business of baby. Mary Rachel.
Well, Gerry, in 2021, the children's clothing industry racked in nearly $40 billion. That number is expected to increase exponentially over the next 5 years. And for Hoosier moms out there looking for something more practical, like, say, athleisure wear for little ones that's stain resistant, or more budget-friendly options that don't skimp on style, there's several small businesses right here in Indiana that might have just what you're looking for.
We just appreciate everyone's time.
Kids, they're so cute, and so are the clothes. But the cost? Yikes. As a relatively new mom myself, trust me, I get it. But if you're like me and have a soft spot for the ridiculously cute, oh so bougie kids, maybe just what you're looking for. The Indianapolis-based online store opened in 2019 and has been a huge hit nationwide. And at the heart of Oh So Bougie's success is founder Tanya Cowherd. The Indy native has worked with children nearly all her life and understands how important stylish but affordable clothing is for both kids and parents.
Just knowing how easy it is for kids to grow out of their clothes, how quick they grow out of their clothes, how easy it is for them to mess the things up because they don't understand the quality of the things that they are wearing. So just knowing those types of things kind of led me to choose the items I choose and, be more mindful on my price settings for, the everyday mom or dad.
Now to a Westfield mom who launched her own brand of athleisure wear for babies and toddlers. Founder Jessica Lynch was a cheerleader at the University of Michigan. Her husband, well, he just finished up a professional hockey career in the NHL. So it's no surprise when the two had children, they wanted their little ones to have some athletic wear to match them. That's when Lynch launched Yoga Baby in 2015.
Yoga Baby clothing is an athleisure line for babies and toddlers. And all of our clothing has 4-way stretch, and it's made with high quality wicking fabrics. It doesn't stain, and it just has great durability for, all the things you're doing with your little ones every day.
You can check out Yoga Baby at yogababyclothing.com and a number of other Indiana-based baby, toddler, and tween boutiques and online stores at our website at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Gary?
All right, Mary Rachel, thanks. Some interesting entrepreneurs from around the state. Also making headlines around Indiana this week, Governor Eric Holcomb headed to Slovakia and Israel. These are photos of Governor Holcomb's trip to Israel in May of 2021. His office says that this trip will focus on cultivating new business relationships in Central Europe and the Middle East. Indiana exports more than $1 million worth of goods to Slovakia and is the 4th largest goods exporter to Israel in the Midwest. The trip will mark the governor's second to Slovakia and 3rd to Israel. In Allen County, Union Street Market has announced 3 new merchants are coming to the indoor food market at Electric Works in Fort Wayne. They are Picoso Burrito Company, Johnny Ox Neo, Neapolitan Pizzeria, and Honey Plant. That brings the total number of merchants there to 15. The market expected to open in October as part of the $286 million first phase of the mixed-use innovation district at the former General Electric campus. And the International Brotherhood of Teamsters has notified the American Red Cross of its intention to strike if a labor dispute is not resolved by the end of March. Such a walkout would affect blood collection service in Indiana. The Red Cross says if there is a strike, it would disrupt already vulnerable supplies of life-saving blood products that patients depend on. Nationally, the Red Cross supplies about 40% of the nation's blood supply. Well, busting a move to Bloomington, how Indiana-based Make My Move is luring remote workers from Reno to D.C. to Mexico to live in Monroe County. Well, communities all over the world are recruiting remote workers and offering relocation incentives to land new residents, and that includes right here in Indiana in a big way. Make My Move is the nation's first and only marketplace that matches people and their families to communities. It was founded by Hoosier entrepreneur Bill Osterly, a co-founder of Angie's List, and Evan Hawk, a former executive at Angie's List. And I'm pleased to welcome Evan to the show with more on how it works and what is a growing trend. Evan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is, to me, one of the interesting stories, and I think really fueled in part by the pandemic, but you got remote workers who can live anywhere. Make My Move connects those workers who may be in California with the ability to come here to Indiana. Talk about how it works.
That's right. I mean, we're seeing a real generational shift. Workers can choose where they want to live and work independent of their employers, and many workers are taking their employers up on that. They're moving from places like San Francisco and New York to places that maybe not long ago were considered flyover country. And so really this is open season for communities across the Midwest to recruit remote workers directly. So our marketplace connects those remote workers with these incentives and helps them make a move.
You talk about incentives, and I think this is one of the fascinating pieces of it. A number of communities are doing this around the state. Greensburg, as an example, and one of their incentives is having grandparents serve as babysitters, right? So it runs the gamut, really, on some of these incentives to get people to live here.
That's right. You know, some communities are offering cash, some are offering amenities. Greensburg was a great example of their incentive package really communicated what was special about their region, which is the people. And so connecting those remote workers to their new community. And the highlight of that package was Grammy Tammy, who is offering free babysitting services and to stand in for grandparents on Grandparents' Day.
That's very, very interesting. Bloomington Remote is what we want to talk about today, too. The mill, co-working space there, one of the entities involved there. I talked this week with Lauren Shields from Tampa. She's a contract or a content strategist for a big tech company. She chose Bloomington as part of this process, and I asked her why Bloomington?
Yeah, I came from the south suburbs of Chicago, and I've lived all over the country. I've lived in California and Atlanta and New York, and there just isn't any place like it, and I just missed it. I tell people I'm constitutionally Midwestern. I have a very particular sense of humor, and I'm practical, and I'm a little conflict avoidant. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really high on Bloomington. What she liked was they aren't offering financial incentives, but things like a seat on a nonprofit board, which really attracted her. So it's really interesting how creative these communities are getting.
And the more creative, the better. People have left these places historically, not because they aren't great places to live, but because they've gone to find jobs. But now that they can bring their jobs with them, they love places like college towns and Bloomington. Great places to live, lots of stuff to do, great communities.
Really interesting, too, in Bloomington, the Bloomington Remote, they've attracted so far 14 workers, and the economic impact, the estimate, is at $1 million to the local economy. So there's economic impact to these communities.
It's enormous. We commissioned the Public Policy Institute to help us calculate the value of these people. And they bring enormous value from their spending in the local economy, obviously their tax impact. Somebody making $100,000 moving to a place like Bloomington is bringing $83,000 a year in incremental economic impact.
Yeah, and we were talking off camera. You really think Indiana's a leader in this space? I know there was a bill that passed the State House this year.
Yeah, I mean, there are half a dozen communities already across the state that are offering these programs. Senate Bill 361 aims to help support those communities, offer funding for them. Also, the IEDC is offering matching funds to support these programs. So really, Indiana is a leader, and we expect a lot of other states to follow our lead.
Is this something, I mean, I would assume it is, but a trend that's really just going to continue to pick up steam as things go forward?
I think this is the new norm. I mean, for many decades, communities have offered incentives for companies to relocate, and they're really just devoting a lot of those dollars to start attracting individuals.
Yeah, and then a final question for you. Do you think the Midwest, Indiana and the rest of the Midwest, are really maybe even better positioned to attract these remote workers?
I mean, people are moving for quality of life, and we have great quality of life. It's affordable, our people are great, lots of stuff to do. I think we're going to win the talent wars.
Evan Hawk is co-founder of Make My Move, really interesting company that is making a difference. You're seeing some impact, so Evan, really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, ahead on our next half hour, kids who won't take their vitamins and the innovative solution two Indianapolis dads came up with that is now a thriving business. And in this week's Eye on Education segment, Coding for Kids, Ninja Style, what it is and why it's a big hit with Hoosier students. Well, two Indianapolis dads have launched a company they say helps parents overcome the universal struggle of getting kids to take their vitamins. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. Called Better Family, the young company initially focused on figuring out how to get kids on board with taking vitamins, but their business model soon expanded to the entire family. Better Family says about 100 Hoosier households are now using its multivitamin product, which is one liquid designed for the entire family. Dads and co-founders Matt Hasbrook and Phil Ink join me now to tell us more. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having us.
I was just saying, we love having dads on. Typically it's moms, so welcome dads. So you both are health nuts, vitamin junkies. Tell me how this whole idea for Better Family came about. And Matt, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. Well, I have been a vitamin and nutrition junkie my whole life, and actually created a vitamin med spa in Carmel that does intravenous vitamin therapy. And I was at the pool one day and I was talking to Phil and asking, he's also a vitamin aficionado, and we started kind of comparing notes on what we both take, and we both pulled out a bucket of different supplements that we're taking and trying to get our kids to take. And we were like, man, this is really a challenge. How do we make this better? And then we found this pharmacist, naturopathic genius partner who kind of has all the scientific background, and he brought it. The three of us got together about a year and a half ago or so and had this idea to simplify busy parents' lives and alleviate some of the challenges that it takes to get your kids the daily nutrition that they need.
Right. One more thing to think about, and you failed to mention your pharmacist is in Zionsville, so he's local too, which we like.
Yep.
So Phil, simplicity I think is a major selling point of this.
Absolutely.
One liquid, the entire family, you just adjust the dosage. So explain why you wanted to go the liquid route in particular.
Well, the pharmacist we're talking about, he taught us a lot of great things early on, and that's the majority of things are in pills and tablets. And we could have gone that route, but the reality is liquid's simply more absorbable. You get more absorption. So we went that route with the idea that we were going to get more of the actual ingredients into the body. And if you look at pills and capsules, what generally happens with them is your body has to break them down. It has to go through a process to turn into a liquid to get in your bloodstream. Liquid is immediate and goes right into your body. So if you're putting whatever is in those ingredients, it's going to go right in.
And think the world of Amazon right now. It's like, I think one of you said, it's like the wild, wild west of vitamins right now. Yeah. There's so many millions of products out there. What do you think makes yours unique and really stand out in the crowd?
I think liquid's one of them. If you look at it, it's, Amazon's about how many things can I sell you? And then you get 5 things and you think you've solved all your problems, and then you get 6 more things. And that was Matt and I.
Yeah, we looked at Amazon, and Amazon is obviously the best way to sell e-commerce, but they own the customer, and it's very expensive, and they take a lot of percentage of your sales. And so we said, how are we going to compete? And it was really a challenge to figure out how to compete in the big blue ocean in a $40 billion marketplace. So we figured out that nobody has figured out how to make a liquid that tastes good enough that a kid would want to take it. So besides the liquid, it's the flavor that's palatable enough that a kid would want to take it.
Okay, and your business model is a little unique. You have a subscription replenishment model. So explain how that works and how people can get it.
Sure, we want people to want to take it. So we don't want people to stockpile product. You can pause and cancel at any time. We want it to show up at your door at the precise moment when your family runs out. So if you're a family of 5, you may get the product every 35 days. If you're a family of 6, you might get it 30 days, et cetera. So it's based on an algorithm built around your family, and you build that household, and you can adjust it and pause it at any time.
Okay, and you guys have an interesting story. Launched in the thick of a pandemic about 6 months ago to your customers. So you've been dealing with customers about 6 months now. So Phil, give us an update. How's it going?
It's going really well. We signed up 100 people when we launched initially. We've been piling on a few new ones each day. It's been very sticky. We haven't lost many people.
That's great.
Very few cancellations. So I think people like the simplicity of it. I think you've got something that you can put a drop in your tongue rather than take 10 pills every day. I got a call from my dad last night at 9:45, and he's 84 years old. And all he wanted to do is ramble about how much he liked the vitamins and to send him more vitamins.
And like it. Dad's a good, big supporter.
And he just said, basically, it's easier to stick this under my tongue because I don't like swallowing my pills.
And Matt, I know you have a strong sports background, including Notre Dame football. So yes. You're kind of like Rudy, right?
Yes, I am Rudy. I was a walk-on, and Notre Dame was one of 4 programs in the country that had a full-time nutritionist, and I was less talented than most of the players at Notre Dame, so I had to work my butt off on the nutrition side to try to gain an advantage, and that's kind of where I got the nutrition bug. So this has been a labor of love for probably since I was a teenager, between wrestling and football, extreme nutrition to advance my athletic performance. So,
all right. Started as a passion project for both of you, it sounds like.
Yes, for sure. And then we just saw an opportunity and a need because of our kids and the nutritional gaps in most families' diet. It's hard to get your kids to eat fruits and vegetables, let alone take vitamins.
That's the truth. All right, Matt and Phil, thanks for being on the show, and good luck to you.
Kylie, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, in Lake County, workers at the largest inland refinery in the Midwest, BP Whiting, have approved a new 4-year contract. Our partners at the Times of Northwest Indiana report that deal includes an overall 12% pay increase and no concession on the issue of providing months of advance notice if workers intend to go on strike. The contract also sets benefits and working conditions for the nearly 1,700 full-time employees at the refinery, which supplies gas to 7 states and jet fuel via direct pipeline to Chicago's airports. It's time now for Eye on Education. Well, if you want to get young students interested in learning about high tech and science, why not take it to their level, as in building their own video games, Ninja style. Code Ninjas is the world's largest and fastest growing kids coding franchise, and it's gaining traction now in Indiana. In just 1 year, hundreds of Hoosier children have learned coding and STEM skills through Code Ninjas that could potentially lead them to careers in technology. Code Ninjas Greenwood owner and operator Josh Groh joins us now to explain how it all works. Josh, welcome.
Hi, how are you, Gary?
Good. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's talked about all the time. It's everywhere you look. The need to really focus on that. And I know Code Ninjas, a big part of that is getting kids engaged, people engaged at a very young age. That's kind of central to the Code Ninjas model, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically we look to see kids that are ages 7 to 14 beginning in our dojo. We have a platform for any of the kids depending on age, so they can start out with our fundamentals or go straight into our Create program.
And as you look at it, I talked about bringing it to their level. Kind of video games is that part of the learning process?
Absolutely. I would have loved the opportunity when I was a kid to be able to create video games. That's all I ever wanted to do. Never had that opportunity. So I love that I'm able to offer that to kids through this game development platform. We teach multiple different languages, including JavaScript, C#, and Lua. And there are a ton of different camp opportunities in the summer as well.
Yeah, why is it so important when you're talking about technology and coding to engage young people at a young age, to really start early?
Yeah, of course. So it teaches kids resilience. It teaches them critical thinking. It helps with their logic and reasoning. I mean, there is pretty much no end to the benefits to learning STEM at an early age.
Yeah, talk about the experience, if you will. As you mentioned, you're dealing with kids 7 to 14. So if I'm a 7-year-old, I come there. What's the experience like? And is it a continuum? Is it a continual type process that would continue on maybe for several years?
Yeah, of course. So the standard program you can see from start to graduation is about 2.5 years on average. We've only been open for a year, so we don't have that completion yet. But when the kids come in, they will start with our fundamentals program if they're on the younger age, which teaches Scratch. It's a program that's offered through MIT. It's drag and drop code editing. So it's a very cool way for kids to learn the program without having to know the actual coding aspect. And then they'll move on to JavaScript from our 1st to 4th belt, Lua in the 5th belt, and then the final belts will use Unity 3D and C#.
So very tech intensive. Is this starting at a young age? I assume there's the possibility that this could spark a technology career down the road. I mean, who knows where things go, but you start early like that could engage that and start that process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some kids, one of our kids, she's awesome. She came in wanting to be part of NASA. Another one wants to own his own software company. We're talking like 7 to 10-year-olds. These kids are amazing.
Yeah, we mentioned Code Ninjas is a franchise operation. Your operation in Greenwood, there's also Carmel, Fishers, Northwest Indiana, and Crown Point, West Lafayette. Do you sense with this push to get, to fill that STEM pipeline, if you will, that this model and others like it are going to be important to making that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there is one thing that you can say, it's that kids like video games. So if you want to combine them in with the STEM side, put video games in front of them, teach them how to make them, it's going to make that screen time awesome. It's going to make them have a good time, and they're going to want to come back.
All right. Code Ninjas, Josh Groh, the owner and operator of the Greenwood location. Coming up on a year, 250 kids so far. STEM, obviously very important. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, Greg Ballard placed a high priority on STEM education, especially robotics, during his 8 years as mayor of Indianapolis. He burst onto the political scene in 2007 when he upset incumbent Bart Peterson. Born and raised in Indianapolis, Ballard graduated from Cathedral High School and Indiana University, spent 23 years in the military, and cannot really forget an experience he had at a recruiting office in Bloomington.
I'm thinking, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. He comes up to me and he goes, and he's an old drill instructor, says, "Hey, want to talk about the Marine Corps?"
Greg Ballard had some really good stories in this podcast. You can hear all about it and much more from the 48th mayor of Indianapolis on the next edition of the Business and Beyond podcast. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com and click on the subscribe tab. Well, it won't be long before we hear play ball at Victory Field. More on the Indianapolis Indians gearing up for their 120th season. Well, they've outlasted a pandemic. So for the Indianapolis Indians, it's again time to play ball. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. And as the grass greens up and again in iconic Victory Field, the Indians prepare for their 120th season with their home opener on April 5th. Joining us today to offer perspectives and a preview is the franchise's president and general manager, Randy Lewandowski. And Randy, welcome back. It's a rite of spring to have you on.
Love seeing you every year about this time, Bill, so thanks for having us on.
Well, and again, it's been really 2 years since you've been able to have a normal outlook on the season. I know the staff has to be invigorated. Everybody has to be really eager to get up and get going normal.
We are. You use the word normal, and that's, people are going to say, what's new at Victory Field this year? Normalcy. That's what we're shooting for. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but we just want normalcy. And we think we're on that path. So we're starting to feel that pressure. We're a couple of weeks away from opening day, as you said, on April 5th. We haven't felt this in 3 years, just because of everything that's been going on. We've got a seasoned staff with some newcomers, but we are excited. It is a rite of spring, and we're certainly excited to get things going at Western Maryland here in a week or two.
The big off-season news, Randy, was this whole thing with the major league owners and the players and this labor potential threat. But the Indians would have gone ahead in any case, correct?
Yes. Our partners at Major League Baseball let us know very early on in the process, in December when the lockout first began, that the minor league season was going to go on as planned. There may have been some nuances with some 40-man roster guys and lots of details there. But the great news is we've been able to plan for a normal year, knowing that our season, no matter what was going to happen on the major league side of things with the Players Association and Major League Baseball, that we were going to have minor league baseball, AAA baseball here in Indianapolis. And that's been our mindset from the beginning. And thankfully, for the good of the game, the agreement was arrived at here a couple of weeks ago. And we're all guns ahead, getting ready for our season on April 5th.
A new manager, Miguel Perez, your 17th year in affiliation with Pittsburgh Pirates, and so you got new and you got old.
We do. We're excited about, he's known as Miggy. He played for us a couple different times as a catcher. He got his coaching career started here in 2016. He's moved up the Pirate system quickly as a manager. Managers and coaches, much like players, work their way up from the lower levels up to the higher levels. He's bringing along a pretty talented crew with him as far as the players go. There was a good core group of guys in the Pirates minor league system at AA last year. So Miguel's coming up with a good group of those guys. Pirates have a lot of young talent in their pipeline. We're going to start to see the tip of that iceberg here in Indianapolis. Do you think the big league club's still going to, scuffle around a little bit as they try to get their footing, but it is a rebuild, and there is a lot of talent coming through the Pirate system that we're going to see here in Indianapolis, not only this year, but in subsequent years.
And Randy, as we wrap up, no Indian schedule is always replete with special nights, promotions. I mean, you guys literally touch all the bases.
Well, we need to be creative. That's always been our niche, besides family and affordable entertainment here in downtown Indianapolis. But yeah, we're doing some of the great things that we've done. For opening night, it's our 60-degree weather guarantee. We never know what that's going to hold with early spring weather in Indiana, but that always grabs people's attention. And if it's not 60 degrees, you get a ticket for another game in April. So we try to have some fun with the weather when we know it's going to be unpredictable. But all of our daily deals are back, whether it's our Tuesday dollar menu where we sell concession items for $1. Our Friday fireworks are always popular. Our signature Saturdays, we bring out Marvel superheroes and other characters throughout the year. So a lot of the same things we've done in the past, a few new twists and turns that we're anxious to unveil here over the coming weeks and months. But again, it's about being back to normal and inviting people back to Victory Field, enjoying some of the new spaces that we've created, like the Elements Financial Club, that we opened up to some restricted capacities last year, but we are full speed ahead and looking forward to it.
Well, Randy, it's great to have you on the show. It's great to look forward to the season opener again, Victory Field, April 5th. Thanks for being on with us.
You bet. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it very much.
And Gerry, back to you.
All right, great to see the uniforms in the clubhouse there. Spring is upon us in baseball season. Hey, I have to ask you before we leave, Matt Ryan, the Colts' long-awaited answer when it comes to quarterback. Is Matt Ryan from the Falcons, is he the answer?
Well, just not my opinion, but it seems to be a widespread national opinion that the Colts, after all the uncertainty, to come away with Matt Ryan for only a third-round draft choice, have really, really made a very good deal, and I think he's going to be terrific, even though he's, I think he's 36 years old, but what a career he had in Atlanta.
Yeah, for sure, and we'll be following that. I know you will. Thanks, Bill. Well, COVID-19's ripple effect has hit Indiana's rural hospitals with a powerful punch, to the point many of them are now on the brink of closing. Just one of the many stories our partners at the IBJ are working on this week, and IBJ editor Leslie Weidenbender joins us, as always, with more. Leslie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gerry.
Yeah, 14 of 54 rural hospitals at risk of closing. That's a big number. I know John Russell on your staff has that story.
Yeah, so it's really difficult for rural hospitals to be able to make ends meet, and it's getting tougher. That most of the services that are provided in these smaller hospitals tend to be the ones that don't have big profit margins, and so it's really tough. Fortunately, a lot of them are owned by some of the big companies like IU Health or Community Health, and those have a much better chance of survival.
Yeah, so those hospitals obviously so important to those small communities around the state. Another interesting story, I think, in downtown Indianapolis, that's the repurposing of the former AT&T building into some apartments. It's a project I know that was announced a couple of years ago, now coming to life.
It's really interesting because, as you say, Gerry, this was announced pre-pandemic, but as we think about post-pandemic, there's going to be a lot more office buildings available for this type of conversion. This is going to be a high-end place, and this is done by Keystone Group, and it's expected that the first people will be moving in April. And like I said, these are high-end spots. I mean, we're looking at rents that range from $1,400 a month all the way up to $3,900 a month. But I got to tell you, get incredible views for that money. Yeah, that will be a very interesting project as it opens up. And finally, certainly one of the most interesting, you do a lot of interesting things, but one of the most popular things, the 40 Under 40 list, celebrating 30 years this year. You're coming out with that list this week. We are, we're very excited about the list. We have a great group. We have CEOs and educators, folks who work for Governor Holcomb's administration, people who are working for not-for-profits and bankers and lawyers, and it's always so fun to see. And you also have an alumni award, right, that's going to a very familiar name. This is the second year in a row that we've had an Alumni of the Year. This year, it's Scott Dorsey, and we're really excited. He was a 40 Under 40 in 2004, back when Exact Target was just a few years old. And of course, now he's gone on to do not only take Exact Target public and then the company eventually sold, but he is one of the founders of High Alpha, which just keeps pumping out new tech companies and growing Indianapolis's tech sector. Yeah, look forward to seeing that list at IBJ.com. Leslie Weidenbender, as always, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much, Gerry. All right. Well, up next, our insiders join us for a deep dive into the state of housing and the impact of rising interest rates, plus a look ahead to Governor Holcomb's economic mission to Israel and Slovakia.
Rising interest rates, what it means for the economy, the state's housing market, and the governor preparing to head overseas to drum up business in Slovakia and Israel to help grow Indiana's economy. Our insiders are here to now offer some perspective on some of those stories and much more. Joining me this week, Indy Chamber VP of Indianapolis Economic Development, Portia Bailey-Bernard. Also, IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul Hakim Shabazz, and Vox Global Managing Director Mike Marker. And welcome one and all to the Insiders. And Portia, you're a first-timer. We give you a special welcome as well. And I'll give you the first question.
Okay.
I'll throw it out to you.
So what happens when we're back in studio?
That's right. Yeah, you know, that's great. And it is great to have everybody back in studio. But the economy, I mean, everyone wondering what 2022 will bring, rising interest rates to be sure. I know at Indy Economic Development, you had a great year last year. Some big numbers. Talk about that and how you're viewing 2022.
Yeah, so we finished 2021 with $572 million in capital investment, and we retained and created roughly 7,000 jobs. And so, I mean, to have that done during a pandemic is just simply amazing. What's interesting too is our numbers are tracking pre-pandemic levels, and so we did see kind of a shortage in our job creation and retain, but I think that's a lot we can contribute to the labor shortage we're seeing across the country. But I mean, in terms of economic growth and development occurring in the city, right now we're seeing record upticks for our city's planning petitions, and those include variances, land use, rezoning. So we've got a lot of development, really exciting projects in the pipeline. I'm optimistic about our future moving forward.
Okay, positive outlook, pipeline looking good. Mike, as you look at the rising interest rates, the supply chain, we saw Toyota this week announce they're going to have to shut down for 5 days because of supply chain issues. Does that threaten that optimistic outlook?
I think a little bit. I mean, there's certainly still headwinds that we face. I mean, Chairman Powell said he's increasing rates, did it, showed a commitment to doing it more. That seemed to have calmed a fair amount of nerves. You see jobless claims now at a 50-year low, so you have a tight labor market. You also see automatic tax refunds coming from a whole bunch of states, including Indiana, which with coffers being what they are. But we still face chip production issues and the idling of plants, so a lot of work still to do.
Yeah, basically it's sort of that dark cloud that's in the back of a relatively good picture. For example, I think it's interesting that the Fed's raising interest rates, because interest rates have been so low for so long that people have forgotten what it's like to have like a 5% interest rate. Like, what in the world is that? That sort of thing. So no, that also the fact, like I said, the job numbers are good. We still have a major labor shortage. I mean, we have 2.9% unemployment in Indiana. That means a normal unemployment is supposed to be like 5%, which means unemployment is actually a little bit on the too low side. But once again, it's a matter of just balancing all these, like I said, the good news, but also keeping track of our economic challenges.
What's your take on global interest? I think there's a lot in Indiana. The governor heading, I think, in the week ahead to Slovakia and Israel. I think the lieutenant governor has been in Israel here this past week. Indiana still attractive for that global
I think so. As people are looking for places to invest, Indiana has a low tax structure, very low government regulation. We got some kind of silly things going on at the legislature every once in a while, but if you can get past that, we're actually in pretty good shape. I've actually been to Czechoslovakia like back in 1988, which was kind of frightening during the Russian Revolution. Right. So it's a place that's ripe for economic development, ripe for look for places to do business. Because if you think about it, Indiana does a lot of business in Germany, done business in Japan. So now it's time to go to Central Europe and also to the Middle East.
Yeah. What I think has been interesting, and Portia, you talk about impressive numbers during the pandemic, to see these big projects like Electric Works in Fort Wayne, Bottle Works here in Indianapolis, rolling. I mean, they're happening. Bottle Works announced this week phase 2 is going to happen. What does that do for economic development efforts to grow the economy?
Oh, it does so much. Bottle Works is the type of a project that draws talent, which we want here in Indianapolis. And when I'm pitching companies to come to our community, that's the type of project or development we tout. What's really interesting about Bottle Works is the second phase was actually supposed to be housing, and they shifted to office, which is really surprising to a lot of folks and when thinking about the pandemic. But in my conversations with developers, a lot of them have told us they've seen a demand for office space in those type of multi-district neighborhoods, which makes so much sense because if you think about it, for the last 2 years, employees have been in the luxury of their own home. And so it's going to take a lot to get an employee to come back to work. And so I think we're going to see this shift from our traditional towers to more of these multi-district neighborhoods with amenities and hotels and restaurants. You can work out, grab a beer after work. And so it's exciting, and they're doing really well. And that is one of my favorite projects. It's right in my backyard. So my family and I spend a ton of time over there.
That's good. Well, I know High Alpha's there, Lumina Foundation, I think, going there as well. Mike, you're a Fort Wayne guy, very familiar with that. Electric Works, for any city, you know, any size to do something like that is impressive, but it's amazing what they're doing up there with Electric Works in Fort Wayne.
There's a lot of momentum in Fort Wayne, Electric Works being a big part of that. The new Union Street market that they have coming in with the local business owners and food retailers, that's the next phase of that. And I just kind of add on to, you know, what the governor's doing going overseas, what's going on in different regions, including Indianapolis with economic development leaders. A lot of momentum there, and we're going to see it coming at the end of May. The IADC and the governor are doing something really smart with this Global Economic Summit around the Indianapolis 500, taking this momentum of what's going on in regions and around the state in different sectors and bringing more people here to say you can site work here and you can grow work here. It's a great message, and it's timely.
Quick sports question, Matt Ryan, from the Falcons to the Colts. Is he the answer?
I think he's the answer near term. Like if we want to get to another Super Bowl real quick, he's definitely the answer. You know, throw the ball a little bit, hand the ball to JT, and let's go, right?
So I don't consider myself an expert in sports, and my frame of reference for a lot of players is based on who their wives are. So Russell Wilson, that's Sierra's husband. Tom Brady, that's Giselle's husband.
Okay.
So I am so excited, and I welcome Sarah Marshall Ryan and her husband to Indianapolis and wish them nothing but success.
That is a great way to end the insiders, too. Portia Bailey Bernard, the VP of Indianapolis Economic Development for the Indy Chamber, also Mike Marker, Vox Global, Abdul Hakim Shabazz, the publisher of IndyPolitics.org. Thanks, one and all, and thanks for being in studio. It's great to have everybody back.
Great to be
here.
here.
All right. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with me. Coming up next week, Purdue researchers working on technology that could be a lifesaver at high-traffic intersections. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gerry Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.